Hello, everybody. I am Sapna Mahadevan, your host for this evening, and I again warmly welcome each one of you to PSTV. So, as you all might be knowing, these days we are taking up the stand up comedy vertical, and we want all of you to ace your comedy game to make people in your lives happy and make them laugh out loud, maybe with all of the tips and tricks that we have up our sleeves that we are going to teach all of you all in these episodes, right? So today we have a different subtopic that we are going to explore in the stand-up comedy vertical. Do stay tuned in with me to have all the fun and the laughter and also a lot of learning. Yes, so let's get started with our introductory slide here. Stand out at stand up comedy, explore yourself at a comic level. That's what we are going to do today. Let me show you all of the coming up segments, and here they are, a plethora of activities curated specially for my dear viewers. So, we are going to have a look into the definition of stand up comedy, and there's going to be a scenario that we are going to discuss here. This is day one of this particular subtype of comedy, and then we will be looking at some essential pro tips on how we can be establishing the essentials of comedy writing. Apart from that, there are going to be tips and tricks on how you can be framing the fun part, which involves some basic elements that we will be looking out into in our episode here. And apart from that, you can see a lot of items that have been mentioned, which are all fun activities, but in some sort of a way, they are going to give you or impart a learning aspect as well, right? So there is decipher the EDM, synonymous segments, identify the comedians. There are going to be some icebreaker questions as well, quiz time, and finally a crossword segment, right? So let's look at all of the activities that we have planned for today's episode one by one. And here we have the first segment for the day, which is kind of like an icebreaker starter, so we can get to know each other better, have a little bit of an icebreaker here with this segment. Here is the reveal of that segment here. So this is called movie title trivia, and you need to guess these comedy movie titles, right? So I want all of you to attempt to answer these movie titles in the chat box there. Here is the first picture for the day. Can you guess what is the name of this picture? Okay, waiting for some comments there. There's one anthropomorphic character there, and two little young girls that I can see here. Yes, so let me tell you a little detail about this movie. The name or the title of this movie in a Peruvian language, that means little girl. Yes, so think of what the name of this movie out here is. Okay, no idea is the comment that I get there. Lavin gives me a emoji there. I think he wants to say hi, maybe. And Prisha, hi there. Good evening to you too. Okay, so think emoji is coming up here. So let me give you the name of this movie. It's called Ainbo. Ainbo, Ainbo, right? Now, moving ahead to the next picture, there it is on your screens. Do let me know the name of this movie title here. That's quite easy. It is one of those movies that we have all listened to many a times, and really got mesmerized by all of the fantastical elements that were happening in this movie, right? It is adapted from a popular book, and who knows the correct answer? That picture itself is revealing a lot many answers there. That's correct. Bhumi gives me the correct answer. That is Cinderella, of course. And here it is, right? So let's move ahead to the third one now. This is the last one. So brace yourselves. Again, a really popular movie. Disney Gets Wild is what's written there. and those characters are really popular, and that's the correct answer that I'm getting here in the chat box. Of course, it is the Ice Age Adventures of Buck Wild. Yes, here it is. Okay, so thanks again for all the participation. And with that, now that we have started our segment, let's move ahead to the next segment that's going to play up, which is a definition of what stand up comedy is all about. So I think for all of my new viewers here, and for the ones who have maybe forgotten what stand up comedy is all about, let me give you another. Introduction here. So stand up comedy is a show or a performance in which the comedian, they perform live on the stage in front of a live audience, and what they are trying to do there is by their own punchlines and tags and jokes, their original jokes that they have written for their comedy routine, they are trying to make people laugh, right? So it's really a tough nut to crack. You need to have public speaking skills, you need to be funny, that is of course one of those criterias, but apart from that, you need to be a good orator, and you need to have that courage to go up onto the stage and test all of your jokes that you have written. Yes, so the average stand up comedy show, it gets 4 to 6 laughs a minute from the audience, and stand up comedy these days is really an emerging performing art. It can also be taken up as a lucrative career option. Yes, we have so many Indian stand ups also in the scene these days. We have Atul Khatri, Kenny Sebastian, and so many others that you can be seeing in social media, right? So come to think of this, it can be performed in laughter clubs, in theaters, and maybe in functions where people call stand-up comedians to entertain their guests, right? So there is, of course, a lot of popularity that this particular art form is gaining. And now that we know what stand up comedy is all about, let's move ahead further and understand what is the subtopic that we are going to talk about today, right? So let me tell you, there are more than I would say 25 different subtypes of the stand-up comedy performance. Of course, we have in the past couple of weeks only seen a handful of them, and today we are going to talk about one another type of stand-up comedy, which is called heritage comedy, right? So let me tell you that heritage comedy is a genre in which the comics, they discuss the stereotypes, the myths or traits about their heritage or culture, and that too playfully, right? So for example, you might have seen Kenny Sebastian always joke about his culture in his act, and that could be categorized as heritage comedy, right? So comedians, they go up to the stage and discuss their own culture and heritage playfully to their audience in a way that will garner some laughs, and that is what heritage comedy is all about. So today, let me take you through one of the scenarios through which we are going to make our audience here understand how you can be writing a comedy script for heritage comedy. Right now, before even we start, I want to give you a disclaimer that this is all done playfully. It is only with the intention of making people laugh. So please do not get serious with that material here, and don't please don't get offensive with that, right? So it's just a joke material by which we are trying to make people laugh and bring laughter to their faces, right? So here is the scenario that we are going to have for today, and since it is day one, we have this particular scenario where an Indian family has gone to a restaurant. And suppose that your big Indian family has gone to a restaurant, then describe the funny incidents that has happened there. And this you're going to talk about in this particular scenario. You're going to talk about the culture that Indian people follow, right? And that when you perform playfully, it's going to garner some laughs. Yes, so that is the scenario for the day. Before we move further ahead, let me give you one icebreaker question here. And it says, the last time you went on a picnic. So you might want to mention out here which was the place that you went to, maybe, or what kind of fun did you have? Anything that comes to mind, what can you recollect about the last time you went on a picnic? Yes, quickly in the chat box, you can write to me here. and I would be really glad to listen out to all of your experiences. I'm going to give you some time. By that time, maybe I can recollect the last time that I went to a picnic, and I stay very nearby to the national park, and it's really a scenic place. So early in the morning, we pack our picnic bags, and we really frequent that place a lot. So a hot flask with tea maybe, and some cold sandwiches, and that's the most preparation that we do for going to a picnic to this nearby place. And it's really fun when all of our family members, maybe on a Sunday morning, right, cheerful morning, when we go there. There are a lot of monkeys nearby there, so it's really a fun time sitting out, spreading out a picnic mat, and then sitting out, chit chatting, gossiping with all of our near and dear ones, having food to eat, children playing around, peacefully, and that's a fun time that I can recollect. So this was sometime before the pandemic, and of course now we have not ventured out that much. But this was the last time that I can remember, and it was really, really fun. Yes. So here, by that time, I have got a couple of responses here. So Anukriti tells me that she went to a beach for a picnic. That's really fun. A beach picnic. Wow. Yes. And okay, we have Pranch tell me that he went to a nearby park. Okay. That is lovely. So fun times. Yes, of course, these are fun times when we go with our friends and family members, have some nice, peaceful time out there. Whatever things that we are not able to do on a daily basis, because each one of them is busy, right? So we can spend time on a picnic, speak to them, have let our hearts out. Yes, and it's really a fun time, isn't it? Great. So thanks again for mentioning your last fun picnic out here in the chat box. And now, with that, I'm going to move ahead to the next segment. And this is all about establishing the essentials. So I'm going to whiz past all of the essentials, because by now we have a deep understanding of all these four definite elements that are essential in writing a stand up comedy act. So let me showcase all of those four essentials. We have the opening, bits, transitions, and the closer, right? So first of all, we have the opening. So of course, it is the first impression that you're going to create with your audiences. So you need to open your act well. And how you can be doing that in this particular scenario, where we are talking about an Indian family going to a restaurant, right? So let's catch up with this scenario here. So we can start our act by saying that how this big Indian family rushes into a restaurant. The drama starts with uncles of the family asking each other to sit down first, while aunties of the family, they keep on chit chatting in the hallway, and they are blocking the path for the other customers, right? So that could be an opening statement. You can use hand gestures, use annoying expressions in your faces, and you can make up this particular segment where you talk about how the uncles and aunties of the family are really hilarious, and how this particular act of going inside that restaurant, what happened during the starting. Yes, so that's how you can be opening your comedy script or your comedy act. And now for the next essential element, we have the bits, right? So bits are nothing but small jokes that you have planted inside your comedy setup, which every particular bit, it's going to detail out the setting, the characters who are involved in that particular bit, and the comedian may add some taglines or punchlines, maybe some witty dialogues by which they are trying to incite some humor. Yes. So these are the bits, or the second essential elements in every stand up comedy routine. And now, if I want to catch up with the scenario that I had, then you can now narrate how the debate on menu gets started, where everyone claims that their opinion is the best, and the narrator, whosoever is the narrator of this act, they could not understand why the waiter gives the menu to only a handful of his guests out there, whom maybe he finds educated enough, excluding the others and excluding the narrator himself, and that makes him feel really uncomfortable, right? So that could be the bits that you add on to your comedy routine. So this could be one of the bits where you're not understanding why the menu is getting distributed only to a handful of those people there. And you can add on to this by adding different bits into your act. Maybe you can talk about one of those experiences where how are people in your family, they are loud enough, and how they are eating their food, maybe loudly burping along, or the aunties are chit chatting so loudly that the people in the other table are getting annoyed, or they feel terrible about this having all of these family members along, right? So all of these small bits can be placed into this comedy routine in a way that it incites humor. Yes. Now after these bits, now you have the third element, which is called the transition, right? Now transitioning would mean, say if you have four bits into your comedy routine, right? Now how are you going to transition from one bit to another? That is also crucial, because we do not want to baffle our audiences. We want them to have a clear understanding that we have completed one bit here, and then now we are moving into the next bit, right? So now, for that, let me show you how you can be doing this with this scenario. So, for the transitions, let's recollect that we had spoken about how the waiter is giving the menu only to a few of the guests there, and it seems that he is cherry picking the ones whom he feels are educated enough, right? Now how will you transition to the next joke? Yes, so for that you can say, as the waiter introduces his name, which coincidentally is Punjabi. So that's one community that we are talking about. The big and loud gesture from the father directly comes up onto his back. Finally, the food is served. Everyone is enjoying their meals except an auntie who ordered the most exotic dish. Now she starts taking bites from the narrator's plate. So a silent competition begins on who can stuff more food inside their mouth. And of course, the auntie won because she had that big mouth in which she hid hundreds of gossips, right? So now you can see how you have cleverly taken a call of reference where you're talking about her big mouth, and there is a word play hidden there, right? So that's how you can transition between jokes. And again, here I would want to give a disclaimer that this is only for the purpose of entertainment, right? So this is how heritage comedy is all about. The comedian picks up his own heritage or culture that they come from, and talk about that particular culture playfully, right? In a way of mockery, or in playfulness where it incites humor. Yes. So that was how you can be transitioning. And now for the fourth element, which is the closer, right? So closer would mean the final joke of the show. And again, you need to take this you need to focus on this closer, because it has to go well with your audience. Only if they go back with a laugh or a grin onto their faces, you can understand that your show went well, right? So again, for the closer, you can have a donut effect. That means there could be a callback. So you can reference back to the starting of your joke, how you started or how you made that opening statement. You can reference back to that particular joke, right? So in our closer here, observe how we are ending our scenario. So again, let's catch up with the scenario of the big Indian family who had gone to the restaurant. Now the end was fun, where after having the food normally, the Punjabi father started doing balle balle. So that is again a dance form for this community, and starts dancing for the good food, and the rest of the men also join him. And how hilarious will it be if your sister puts the packet of mouth freshener, wipes, sanitizers, sugar cubes, and even leftover French fries into her bag like an undercover agent? She did it so smoothly that even you get confused. Did you even order any sweet dish yet? Now, the fun begins when the bill arrives. The wrestle begins with who will pay the bill. Everyone at the table starts screaming about why they should be paying the bill, and the whole restaurant began to vibrate with the sound Lastly, God knows who paid the bill and God knows who swept the tip away that was on the bill cover. Yes. So that's how you can be doing this act here, where you have closed the joke beautifully with giving a call of reference to again the Punjabi family who had visited the restaurant, right? So this is just an example of how you can be writing your very own comedy set for heritage comedy. So it's all about making fun of your very own culture, but this is all done in a playful mood and definitely not to be taken seriously. Yes. So this is how we can be establishing the essentials. We gave you all of the four elements there: the opening, the bits, then the transition, and also the closer, right? Now, after this, let's move ahead to the next segment after all of those essentials. So, the next segment that we have here is quiz time, right? So, quickly, all of you be ready. Listen out to the quiz questions that I have here. This is the first question in our quiz time. And here it is, which is the first element on the periodic table of elements. So we have some chemistry question here. I was surely not very good with chemistry, but you can give me answers in the chat box if you have an inkling. Let me show that again to you. Which is the first element on the periodic table of elements? Any answers coming up here? Okay, I don't see any answers come up there. Anything that you can think of, any chemical maybe or a gas. Okay, so let me reveal that answer out here. Oh, that was for a different question. I'm sorry. I hope you did not see that. It was quick. But I think I am missing a slide here. Okay, so the answer is hydrogen. The first element on the periodic table of elements is hydrogen. So I made a goof up there. If you have already seen the answer for the next quiz question, then that's really bad. But I have the next question to show up here. So let me just give that to you. I am hoping that you have not seen the answer. So the second question is, which is the longest written constitution in the world? Okay. So can you guess the answers here? Pragya Shri tells me India, and that is correct. India has the longest written constitution in the world, and that is correct. I am believing that you gave that answer by yourself. Yes, okay. So these were the quiz questions. I made a small goof up there, but anyways, can't help it, right? Okay, so let's move ahead to the next segment. We have expert tips in establishing the essentials. So let me give you two expert tips here. The first one, it says you do not have to memorize the script that you have written. Yes, because if you end up memorizing word to word, then by chance if you forget even one string of word there, then you're going to totally forget what your script was all about. Yes, and you are definitely going to sound like a robot on stage without any emotion, just blabbering of all the material that you had written if you're going to memorize stuff, right? So do not do that. Do not memorize stuff. You don't naturally memorize the words when you're talking to friends and family members, and you're just going to tell your part of the story, right? So that has to come naturally from you. That is the first tip here. And second, if you memorize word for word, then I told you you're going to definitely forget where your performance is going. And the first thing that's going to break your concentration will derail you, and since all you remember are a string of words, you will be unable to remember which word you were on, isn't it? So you have to do this naturally. You might want to memorize different events that you're going to talk about, right? So that you do not forget, or you do not forget covering any of those events. That is doable, but do not memorize word to word, because then you're going to sound lifeless like a robot, and it's no fun, isn't it? So we always tell our students as well at PlanetSpark that if you imagine how robots speak, then they go like this. Um, Let me do that for you. They go like this. Tut, 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 tut. Maybe a robot will speak like that, isn't it? What is your name? Isn't it? That's how the robots will speak. And that sounds lifeless, and that sounds really dull and boring, isn't it? Now, what we not want to do here is we want to grab our audience's attention. So, what we will do is we will put life into our voice, use the various voice modulation techniques, and speak with energy. Yes. So, how humans speak is da 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 da, right? So there are different pitches that we are going to use, isn't it? And if you memorize, then you're going to sound like a robot, and that's going to be lifeless, dull, and boring, and that's why you should not be doing that. Yes. So these were some expert tips here for today's episode, and I get a thumbs up there in the chat box. So now let me move ahead to another segment here. This is a vocabulary enriching exercise, and it is called Decipher the EDM. So the first EDM that we have for you in today's episode is to laugh one off the stage, right? That is the EDM, and what it means is to laugh at someone in order to pressure them to get off the stage, right? So you're going to laugh at someone in a way that they feel pressurized to get off the stage. Yes. So that's the EDM here, to laugh one off the stage. And how you can be using that in your sentence is, I am nervous. What if I get laughed off stage? Yes, so that's how you can be using that idiom, which only means to say that you are pressurized whether everything is going to go well or not. Yes, so that was the idiom. You might want to jot that down and write it so that you that would form kind of a ready reckoner for you, all of the vocabulary, the synonymous words, and the idioms that we bring to you in each of the episodes. You can write that down in one place. I love to call it Google It journal, and you can make a fancy journal, or maybe just a simple diary that you maintain, where you write all of these words and idioms, so that next time you want to say something or express something to someone, you can just check that notebook whether there is an apt idiom which you can be using, right? So if you have not jotted down all of these words till now, then please make a journal where you can be jotting down all of these idioms and words for your reference for future. Yes. Now, with that decipher the idiom segment, I am going to move ahead to the next segment. Here we have Guess the Comedian coming up. So there it is. Name this famous stand-up comedian. He's a really famous Indian stand-up comic, and he does a lot of observational comedy, anecdotal comedy as well. So do you know the name of this famous stand-up comedian? He does some heritage comedy as well. I have seen a couple of episodes. So poking fun at his own culture. Yes. Okay, so name this famous stand-up comedian. And that is correct. Priya gives me the correct answer. He is Atul Khatri, right? You can go into YouTube, check on some of his jokes. Yes, and now let's move ahead to one of the other segments, which is frame the fun part. So again, three important elements in framing the fun part of your stand-up comedy, and that is one is the characters, then we have situation and conflict, and the setting. So for today's episode, we are going to see how we can line this up with the heritage comedy scenario that we had taken up in the starting of our episode. So first thing is character. So we have to be choosy about our characters. We have to choose fun loving characters who are clever and witty with their dialogues maybe. And if you choose correct characters, then it's going to make your life and job easy, because these characters themselves with their funny banter are going to give you a lot of material for your jokes. Yes. So the comic timing that your characters have, all of that will come to play. So now for our scenario, for example, the auntie having bites from your food, and your sister or one of your relatives stealing the restaurant stuff, dad and uncles talking out loud, the way that they are um, making all the loud noises with that food. All of that could be the fun elements and the fun characters that you can be choosing for your act, right? Now the second element here is the situation. So again, the situation, for example, the moment when chaos begins for who will pay the bill or what should be ordered. All of that is again chaotic moments in your situation, which will be the element for giving a funny plot. Yes. Now the third element that we have here is the setting. So setting of the plot is the place that you're going to choose. And remember that you're not writing a fiction, so you have to be elaborative with your speech. You need to give vivid description about the place. So try funnily portraying the scene. For example, while sitting on your chair, you almost fell off because the auntie beside you, she took the chair unknowingly and sat immediately, right? So that could be a scenario that you can play up for the setting. You can give vivid descriptions about this. You can use hand gestures, make use of facial expressions, and that's how you can incite the humor. Yes. So this was an example of how you can be taking up heritage comedy. This was day one. Tomorrow again we will be coming up with another scenario so that you have an better understanding. Right now it is time to move ahead to another idiom that we have for today. And here it is. So, a laugh a minute is the idiom, the next one for today's episode. So, a laugh a minute would mean someone or something that is very funny, right? So, that's the idiom. Ruchi tells me, okay, what is idiom? Okay, so let me tell you, idiom are phrases that have a hidden meaning. So you're only going to get to understand the sentence that has an idiom if you know what that idiom means, right? So these are really impressive ways to express oneself. And if I say a laugh a minute, it would mean something that is very funny. So let's look at an example sentence here. Sarah's comedy is a laugh a minute. So if I say this, then it means that her comic timing or her comedy is really hilarious, right? So a laugh a minute would mean that Sarah's comedy is a laugh a minute. Or you can talk about any of those famous stand-up comedians and you can say Atul Khatri's comedy is a laugh a minute, right? So that's how frequently you're going to laugh at his jokes. That means he is so very hilarious. Yes. So that was the idiom that we had for today. I hope that you had an understanding of this, and you can give me a thumbs up, maybe a show of hands in the chat box so that I also have a cue that you are understanding this. I'm going to wait for a couple of seconds for your um, emoji here. You can let me know if you have any feedback, any suggestions for me, um, any of the other topics that you would want covered, or any questions, maybe anything that comes to your mind. Please do write into the chat box here. It is open and welcome for all of your comments. Okay. So I think Richa doesn't have any comments or any questions here. Yes, and I get a couple of emojis there. Great. So let me just check. We covered all of this, and now we come to some other expert tips that we have here for plotting the plot, right? So how you're going to funnily talk about the plot of your comedy script. Yes. So here is the first one: break down the fourth wall. You're not on television, you are live. So talk to the audience as if they are actually there. And that is what I always tell you, that you need to have eye contact with your audience. You need to have a connection. When you talk to the audience, you will come off more authentic, and audience is going to really respond to you more positively. So when comedians launch directly into memorized material, it signals to the audience that they are just on stage blabbering some material that they have written, and they are not trying to make that connection with the audience, right? So even if you do get the laughs, you will lack a connection with the audience, and you will be quickly forgotten. So for you to make your mark in the comedy arena, what you need to do is have a connection with the audience. And for that, you need to understand that you are live and the audience is right in front of you. So you might want to interact with them, ask them some questions so that they respond back to you, and then make jokes on that. Yes. So this is also sometimes called crowd work, which means that the comedians, they talk to the crowd, talk to the people and the audience who are there in front of them, and try and incite some on the spot humor from the responses that they are eliciting. Yes. So that is one of those expert tips there. And yes, with that, now we come to the end of our episode. We are now here at the last fun part, which is locate the words. So here in this segment, I'm going to show you a letter maze. There are four different words hidden in this letter maze. These could be written horizontally, vertically, or even diagonally. What you want to do here is look closely for all of the for all of the hidden words, and give me those four meaningful words in the chat box. Yes. So let me show you that letter maze here. There it is. And all of these words are from today's episode. So just try recollecting the scenario that we had, and try giving me all the four words. Okay. Um, Look closely. The clock has already started ticking. We have very less time. I've not got any of the words till now. Okay, the first word here is Punjabi. That is correct. Anshul gives me waiter. That is right again. And what else? There is a fun emoji out here. So I think you're all scratching your heads to find out what is the word. Okay, so let me make it easier for you. I'm going to reveal out all of those words in just a moment here. Okay, so I can't see any more answers come up. So here is the first word is Punjabi. Then we had vibes. Okay, then okay, so that there it is. We have dish, and the last word is, of course, we found that out. That was waiter, right? So these are the four words in today's episode, and now you know, right? There are smileys coming up here. So now you know where you should have found out all of those words, isn't it? Great. So we come to the end of our episode, and now we have at a glance. That means I'm going to give you a quick roundup of all that we learned about heritage comedy. So, of course, the three essentials for the plot building pointers. We can introduce some funny characters based on our scenario. Then we are going to talk about the setting in vivid detail so that we give a visual appeal to the audiences. Then also a situation or some kind of a problem has to be there in our plot, right? So these are the three essentials there. And the four definite essentials to write a stand-up comedy act would be focus on the opening, focus on the closer, have some small jokes which are called bits planted into your comedy script, and see to it that you transition well from one joke to the other, right? So these are the four elements. And now I would strongly encourage all of my viewers to be doing this project work where you implement all the learnings. Maybe you can replay this episode, check out what was the scenario that we had, and try thinking of another scenario for heritage comedy. Draft your very first heritage comedy script, and also you can try practicing that in front of the mirror, or maybe in front of your near and dear ones, and see how those jokes land, whether they are doing well or not. You can test the waters, right? So that's the project work that I would like all of you to be doing. And with that, we come to the end of our episode. And let me tell you, for tomorrow it is Saturday, and we have breakdown of a classic, right? So do stay tuned in with me tomorrow as well at 6 p.m. India time. We would come up with a classic story, break that down into the title, the author, how that story can be written, what are the essentials, what are the interesting plot building pointers, and give you a basic understanding of how you can be writing similar stories. Yes. So it is going to be a fun episode where towards the end of the episode, I also give you the story in a nutshell, right? So do stay tuned in with me tomorrow's episode at 6 p.m. India time. And until the time I meet you next, I want all of you to take good care of yourselves and have a happy time. Bye bye.